Wisconsin, sometime in the 1990s. Mark Borchardt is a filmmaker. He doesn't have studios behind him, or producers, or writers. Despite this, he pushes on, going further in debt and losing more goodwill with his friends and family as this obsessive pursuit becomes the only thing that matters to him. This is America. This is movie making. This is American Movie.
Welcome to Movie Friends. My name is Seth.
And I'm Michelle.
Today we're talking about American Movie from 1999. Directed by Chris Smith. Produced by Chris Smith, Sarah Price, Jim McKay, and Michael Stipe. Cinematography by Chris Smith. Composed by Mike Schank. Edited by June Diaz and Barry Polterman. Featuring interviews with Mark Borchardt, Mike Schank, Bill Borchardt, and Joan Petrie. Michelle, how are you?
What's going on, Seth? Do you ever feel like when you were waiting for me to finish during Michelle, just like a pool of saliva just collects in your mouth?
No, I swallow. I would swallow when you were talking.
That's good. Happy for you.
You're holding your breath
No.
as I'm giving those credits?
No, I just find that
who composed this?
Yeah, it just collects, and then I'm super aware, and it's just the joys of being a podcaster.
Indeed. I wish a pool of saliva was collecting in my mouth right now, because I'm drinking, this is Hannaford or Market 32 brand.
Does it say PICS? P-I-C-S?
P-I-C-S? I think that's Hannaford. Anyway, this drink is labeled as unsweetened water. Literally what it says.
Yeah.
Blackberry flavor. And this is horrible. Don't buy this, folks. This is an anti-commercial right now. Anyway, what's going on?
What's going on? If you hear Niles meowing for whatever reason, he's like, it's Tuesday. Why is the store closed? Because we're recording on a different day. I'm probably messing up his schedule of looking out the window.
But you know what? Talking about recording on weird days and messing up people's schedules, we're here to talk about American Movie.
It's on brand, really.
I am so excited to talk to you about this.
Are you?
Was it a little selfish of me to make this my pick? I don't know.
Why? Why is it
love
selfish?
This movie.
That's
really selfish, but just 100% out of self-interest. I don't care if anyone likes this movie. I was able to get you to watch this movie. Not that you would never have done it on your own, but that's it. It is for this conversation.
Don't you think Miami Connection was also for selfish reasons?
That I could justify because I was trying to give a broad spectrum of action films when we put in Miami Connection.
I mean, I'm glad you did, because I love that one.
Absolutely.
And I talk about it all the time. It's the best thing I've gotten out of Movie Friends.
Yes. Well,
no.
Okay, that's crazy.
In my mind, that's the best thing I've gotten out of doing this show. Okay. Miami Connection.
Okay. Speaking of connections, we got an email. Subject line is DocuJune.
That's what we're in.
Says, first off, on top of this week's episode, I also listened to the episode Seth did on Furiosa with a special guest, and I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. That was my episode with Brendan Wilson on Furiosa. Back to this week. The Thin Blue Line was a big way to kick off this month's theme, and I'm so glad y'all, no, that's not you all, that's a y'all. I'm so glad y'all chose it. I really enjoyed this doc, and I'm really looking forward to the next one because it is on a subject that is very near and dear to my heart. Low-budget horror films.
Oh, okay.
Shameless plug, I co-directed a short horror film, and if you're ever bored, you should check it out.
What?
It's called Goats, and it's on YouTube under the name Fort Stouffville Productions, and that is STOWEVILLE. Fort Stouffville Productions. And I will put the link.
Okay,
I'll put the link in the notes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get sappy for a second. This podcast is truly a highlight of my week. I really do feel like I'm hanging out with friends every Monday when I listen, and joining your Patreon has been one of my best decisions. And this email is from Josie.
Josie! Oh my goodness. What a little adorable golden nugget.
I
She
knew you
is.
were going to say she's a nugget.
That's how you know you've worked with me for too long now, Seth. You truly have entered, like, you're a
But
true
that's
friend.
also how
You're
I
a true
know how
friend.
you feel about Josie.
Well, yes. I mean,
She's
that
reached
is
nugget status.
she is nugget status. Like, if you are a nugget in my heart, oh wow.
That's pretty funny. So, yes. So, thank you, Josie,
Thank you,
for
Josie.
all of that listening. And I hope that you like American Movie, since it is something that you have experienced. And definitely check out Goats. I'm halfway through it. I'm not going to lie to you. At the time of this recording, I cannot say that I finished it because I had things going on before we sat down to do this.
Wow, I have to check this out now.
But
I thought you were going to be like, hey, we should watch. And I'll be like, yeah. And so I was like, no, I already did it.
You want to do a little watch party?
Yeah, we should. I feel
Okay.
like if our patrons are a part of something, we should celebrate it. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we should do a watch party.
Okay.
Okay.
See, now I'm glad I didn't finish it because there's no way I'm going to watch it twice. I mean, you know.
Are you keeping this in or is this a sidebar?
No, that's a joke. That's a joke.
Oh, all right.
So thank you, Josie. Thank you for the email. And like you mentioned, for signing up for Patreon. If you want to send us an email, moviefanspodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear what you think about The Thin Blue Line. We'd love to hear what you think about American Movie, especially. And if you want to support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. You get access to voting for upcoming films, upcoming monthly themes, all of our additional episodes. I just recorded an episode today with my mom for one of our series where I talk with her about action films. So if you've ever wondered what a 69-year-old woman thinks about Fast and the Furious 4,
And she's the coolest.
and she's the coolest,
She really is the best.
this is for you. I also just put up a quick Instagram story right before we started. Did you see
I
that?
watched it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I watched it. It's pretty great.
Because I was like, I have to express something more. We are working our way through one episode from each season of Seventh Heaven. And it has been such a different experience for me on this show because we try to be positive. We try to be understanding. We try to get at how we feel about things.
Speak for yourself. I knew what I was doing when I came to Seventh Heaven show.
But this is the closest thing that you and I have done to like a hate watch on this show.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's a very different thing. So if you want to hear me lose my mind, boom, that's on there too. Anyway.
Yeah, we're watching the cringiest episode from each season. So yeah. That says anything.
So I want to stop talking incessantly and promoting stuff that I'm doing. Let's talk about American Movie instead. Get it?
Okay.
So before we watch a film for the first time, we will record our pre-watch thoughts. I've seen this before, and so we have Michelle's. So let's go to that real quick.
Getting ready to watch American Movie. I'm excited for this. Seth said it's on the lighter side compared to last week. So just going off the title and not looking anything up, I'm thinking maybe it's about someone chasing their dream, the American dream, or maybe something about maybe like doing like a road trip across America, showing the beauty of it. This is the dream to live here. I don't know. We'll see.
I think that you pretty much nailed it, you know?
Yeah, I don't know why I had this vision of maybe like an American road trip, living the American dream, middle America, landscapes. I mean, we got middle America. There is the American dream talk of it.
I think traveling is part of the whole American story because of pushing westward, stealing more land as we went.
Sure.
Like the expanse of America and like the different communities that make up the United States. I feel like traveling is just inherent in the idea.
Yeah.
So I think you were, yeah. I think those are like the two best guesses that you could have made, either traveling or making money.
Right. Well, with the title American
Right.
movie, you know. Yeah.
So
We have wait.
Yeah.
We got to write down
our
predictions.
Okay, you're right. I forgot. We write down our predictions for what the other person is going to rate this movie. And I don't know what happened to my pencil. I'm a little bummed out. I just
Sorry.
have this sad pen.
You know what? I've been thinking so much about this movie that I didn't even know what I would rate it. So I actually don't have a rating. It will be determined how I feel after this conversation. So
All right,
you roll with that.
This is a real Hail Mary.
Click your pen, Seth. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Dare I say they're locked in? It's my favorite part. All right,
the scores are locked in. We're done. Okay. Last week we covered Thin Blue Line. I did not sell it to you correctly. You start it and you're like, what is this? This is a film. This is not a documentary. This week I tell you we're going a little lighter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I explain. I feel like the synopsis is a little more clear as to what it's about.
Yeah.
So the movie starts. How are you feeling? Like,
yeah. So I started the movie
mm-hmm.
and I got like a minute or two in and I paused it. And Aunt was making music. And I was like, you need to watch this with me. And he was like, okay, give me like 45 minutes. And I was like, you got it. So I did things. We sat on the couch. We started it. About like 10 minutes in, I look at him and I'm like, is this real? Are these real people? I feel like I'm watching Spinal Tap right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so he looks at me. He's like, I was just about to ask you that. And so I don't like to Google anything or research during a watch.
Yeah.
You know, I just have my notes open. So Ant is usually like my IMDb Google search engine.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, this is real. This is 100% real.
Yep.
This is what I'm finding. And yeah, we ran with that.
I was very curious about if the movie would either take a little bit for you to get into or if it would like lose you at a certain point. So did either of those things happen?
No, this did not lose me. And this didn't take any time for me to get into. Once I got like the clarification that, oh no, this is very much real, I was like, here we go. I'm here for this.
You thought there was a possibility that I was pulling a second switcheroo in a row on you?
Well, I was like, it feels so much like a mockumentary, but then you're like, there's no way that this is not real because it feels so fake or just exaggerated.
Yeah.
Especially the character of Mark. But yeah, I'm so happy Anthony watched this with me because this one is like, I think, best enjoyed with a buddy.
Yes, definitely. How did he feel about it?
Same as me. We were cackling. We just kept looking at each other, like legitimately like belly laughing.
Yeah.
But then, right, like I teetered with this feeling, and I wonder if you feel the same way. And we kind of talked about this last week and how we walk the line of true crime, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm laughing. Am I supposed to be laughing? Like there's some things that are funny, right? Like getting Uncle Bill to like say the line like 30 plus times.
Oh my God.
And the way that's like edited and put together, right? The repetition of that. But then I'm like laughing at this whole sequence of Uncle Bill at Thanksgiving. And just like Mark taking care of him and giving him the sponge bath and the comment on the length of the toenails. I'm like, this is someone's life, but I'm laughing at it. Do you know what I'm? And so then I was like, maybe I should not be laughing at those.
Yeah, and I that's probably a good place to start talking about this movie.
Yeah.
So I found a few interviews with Chris Smith and Sarah Price. And they make this movie together. They had previously worked on this movie called American Job.
I saw that. So is this similar?
It's similar in that they made it, but it's very, very different subject matter. So Chris Smith was teaching a film class, and Mark had, I think, registered for the class or classes and then dropped out or like never paid or something, but his name was still on the register. So Mark had been using equipment as if he was in the film class to record movies with
Well, I was wondering about that. And the editing
without
bay,
even
too.
being without even being in the class. And so the school found out and they made him do like 80 hours worth of work, like community service basically.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, was he able to edit Coven
It's
at the school because Chris was working on this?
I think so, maybe. I'm not sure. So all of this was before they started filming him. So this is how they kind of like met,
Yeah.
Chris Smith and
Mhm.
Mark. So then Mark says, I'm going to a film festival and I'm going to meet Roger Ebert. And Chris and Sarah had a few cans of film left over from American Job. So they're like, let's film him. And like let's go to the film festival. We'll film him interacting with, whatever, and it'll just be kind of interesting, and like maybe it'll just be like a side project thing or whatever. He doesn't end up meeting Roger Ebert,
Spoiler.
but over this weekend they're like, we should continue making this movie and following his process and like his life and his philosophy. So that's kind of how the movie
Wow.
got started. Yeah.
Wow.
So I found this interview with them where they're talking about the whole process. Chris Smith says, our goal with the film was to have people coming out of the theater feeling about Mark the way we feel about him. It's a complicated relationship, but I think Mark is a good person who's trying to do the best he can given his situation. Sarah and I both had a lot of faith in him as a person. I don't think either one of us would want to spend 2 years making fun of somebody. And then Sarah Price said, but we also didn't want to buffer him or sugarcoat him to the audience in any way.
Right. And right. And so when I was teetering that line, I was like, there was no point where I couldn't stand him
Mm-hmm.
or felt that he was like a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was just fascinated in someone who has a vision and is such a artist and kind of like a mad genius in a
Mm-hmm.
way,
Mm-hmm.
and so fixated on wanting to complete a project. And I find that highly relatable and involving your family.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
mean, it's as simple as that,
Yeah. Having your
really.
mom line up a frame, having her be an extra in the movie.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think when I watched this for the first time,
Yeah, please tell me your history.
I had the exact same experience that you did. People had said, "Oh, this is one of the greatest films of all time." Not even documentary, just one of the best things ever made. And I'm like, okay, okay. And I'd seen the cover, which is just Mike, Mike and Mark like standing there.
Yeah.
And it didn't say that it was about filmmaking. I didn't really know anything that it was about. So I go into it and I'm like, okay, all right, we're following this guy. And then like, oh, he makes movies. And then when we're talking about like putting the scarecrows at a slant, when he asks the people in the masks to look menacing,
Yep. Look more menacing.
I'm just like laughing and I'm like, oh, this is like a funny movie, right? But then when we get to more time with Mike and more time with Mark, instead of just people talking about them, because I feel like in the first part of the movie, there's a lot more quick little snippets of people
Yeah.
describing Mark and the whole process. But then when we just spend more time with them, I was like, oh, this isn't really a funny movie. This is just a movie about the most interesting person that you know in your personal life and what it would be like to follow them around for more than just seeing them at a picnic once a year or,
Yep.
hanging
Bingo.
out with them on a weekend, right?
Bingo. Yep.
Then I've watched this probably like 6 or 7 times. Because this is a movie that I throw on. It's like, oh, American movie came to this streaming service and I don't really care about watching anything. I'll just throw it on because it stands up to repeat viewing immensely well. And you can kind of not pay attention or, fall asleep and you wake up when Mike screams and you're delighted, right? This time around watching it, it struck me much, much more in how serious and dire Mark's situation is and how he's trying his best to do what he thinks that he's good at and what he wants to do in order to get out of his situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I still find it really funny, but I think that there's a lot more to the movie than just, hey, look at these weird guys.
Absolutely. And like, I find it funny in the way that I find just humanity funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't a comedy. This is,
No.
I can't believe I'm watching people and people are fascinating to me.
Yes. Yes.
And how minds work. I mean, truly, that's what I got out of this.
Yeah.
And friendship and just like the
Yeah.
people in your life that you've known since high school. And also that feeling of, getting stuck.
Yes. Yeah. When he talks about, not having any money for gas, but then he also talks about driving out and driving around the neighborhood that has all these mansions in it.
Yep.
And like imagining, a better life for himself. It's very, very, very relatable. And it's very American to be like, oh, my real job, that's not the thing that makes me money. It's this other thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's this thing that I'm going to do one time and then I'm going to have all this success from it, because that can happen and does happen in America all the time. People go viral, and going viral doesn't necessarily gain you anything but hatred, right? People think like, oh, you'd get like a deal with Pepsi. Like, no, it happens so often now that the novelty of that has kind of worn off. But you can really do like one thing and then it totally changes your whole life and status. And so it's a more complex movie, I think. And I think that's what makes it, so great. I had sent you a clip because the David Letterman show had Mark and Mike on the show a few times. And the Letterman show, some people really hated it. Did you ever watch Letterman and Leno?
Yeah, I love Letterman. I was a Letterman person.
Me too.
Yeah.
Jay Leno seemed different.
No.
Different kind of humor.
That's right. And I feel like you were either Letterman or you were Leno.
Yeah. Sometimes I would.
And Conan, always.
Well, right. Conan over all, of course.
Right. Of course. But Letterman over
And then
Leno.
sometimes Craig Kilborn would slip in there.
Yeah. No, he was okay. He could come on in. But Letterman.
Sometimes I would stay up late enough to see Craig Kilborn and I'd be like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, this seems even weirder than Conan. Like, Conan is like a weird, crazy show. But Craig Kilborn felt like they turned a camera on and were just like, just do.
Yeah, it's late. Just fill the time. Mm-hmm.
So Letterman would always do all of these like, hey, look at this weird guy bits. Stupid human tricks. Him going to the deli around the corner. People who worked on the show. Famous for that. And so Mark and Mike just fit right into that whole idea. But as I was watching it, I felt like the audience, I felt like they were laughing at the things that weren't funny. They were just laughing at Mike and Mark. And I didn't like it. I don't know if it struck you the same way or not.
No, I think because when someone goes on a late night show, right? It's so produced. You know what's coming, right? They know what questions they're going to ask. You have your pre-interview. So I never like truly pay attention because to me, it's all scripted.
Right.
Even though like I love Letterman, right? But, he was feeding him questions, Mark was answering them in a way of like showmanship. Asking him about women and
Right.
Work hard, play hard.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark was doing all the answering and Mike was kind of just being Mike.
Right.
So, and I wonder also if like you had a producer telling the audience like, yeah, let's laugh, let's clap. Because they do have
Right.
those. They
Yeah,
have the hype
yeah.
people. So interesting. I'll have to rewatch that with that lens because I didn't pick that up.
Yeah, and I didn't like go into it,
Yeah.
just in trying to find more stuff from them. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
they did Letterman a few times. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then I watched it and I was like, oh, I felt so protective of them that I was like, when I laugh at you, it's because you're saying something really, really funny. And it feels like these people are laughing at you because they think that you are funny. And it just really, I didn't like that.
Well, if they become a running bit on Letterman, probably these people only know them as, oh, those two weirdos that
Right.
Letterman
Yeah.
brings on. They probably never even watched their film.
Right.
So they didn't even have like a deeper understanding of him.
So you mentioned something, which was another question that I had for you. And I'm glad that you said it. And that question is, do you find this relatable?
I do, extremely. And I thought of you as my creative partner in doing this podcast. I'm like, Seth has got to relate to this. And I think when you're a creative person, there's no way you can't watch this and not relate.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
Absolutely.
way. If you're trying to work on a project or if you've ever done anything creative, this is it. Like, in a different lens, but like, no, this felt really close to home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like when we're telling your husband, okay, during this part of the live show, you need to run out with a confetti gun.
Yeah. Or like making Jean Marie, be like, you need to be up here, not with the audience and controlling a slideshow.
Right. Yeah.
Or, employing your kid to hold. Yeah. Like you involve your entire family. Like, oh man.
Yeah.
And I've worked on projects where their entire families were involved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you're like trying, you have to make your mom hold the camera or hold this light or can you get the boom? And they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just here to help, like support, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the film, like Sarah Price said, it doesn't go out of its way to sugarcoat Mark, So we see that he's got all of this debt to bills that he should be paying. We see that he is behind on his child support. That's like heinous. That's not cool.
He's got 3
That's not
kids.
good. Yeah, he's got kids. I'm certainly not going to sit here and say, oh, here's what this, poor 30-year-old dude from the 90s should have done differently.
Yeah. Right.
But I think what most people who do creative things can relate to is that idea of like obsession and how it's like, well, I can't look at this stuff right now because I have this other thing that's here in front of me. And everyone in your life, they're not doing the creative thing that's in front of you. And so they can't understand why all this other stuff is building up and why you can't spend time, doing normal stuff and working more and because you have your project.
Yeah. And also like so many people start projects. So many people start podcasts. So many people start on writing endeavors.
Yeah.
And like the amount of people that never finish them.
Yeah.
And so the fact that Coven did get completed, I was happy for him.
Absolutely. Oh, it's a great kind of end, to the movie.
Yeah.
When you see like that there's actually people lined up because the whole time you're like, is this going to get finished? Is anyone going to see this? He has the big whiteboard where he's like, I need to sell this many units or this or this or this. And he erases the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, nope, we just need to stick to this top number. Oops, sorry, I erased it. But this is it. This is the amount of units that I need to sell. And so I hear that and I say, who, Mark? Who? How? Are there newsletters, horror fanzines that go out to 500,000 people and 48,000 of them are going to buy your VHS? Like how, like my brain starts going into all of the logistics of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this doesn't, like, I'm freaking out for this guy.
Right, you're watching doom. It's a pending doom is what it feels like.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's part of, so I want to bring up this idea, this German word, Schadenfreude, which is this form of comedy, which is basically like getting joy out of the misfortunes or humiliations of others. And when I was looking up definitions for it, the best one that I found was just a picture of Nelson from The Simpsons pointing and saying, ha ha. So if you're not familiar with that term, that's the general idea.
So do you subscribe to that? Because generally speaking, I really don't enjoy stuff like that. Like, I think of, America's Funniest Home Videos
Mm-hmm.
and, like, watching people fall down. I never found that funny.
Yeah. I think it goes in different degrees. Let's say a president that we don't like has something happen to them and it's a
Mm.
misfortune.
Mhm.
We enjoy that because we really,
Yes.
really don't like that person. If the nicest old lady that you know falls down and breaks her hip, you're not laughing, you're not enjoying, you're not driving enjoyment
Yeah.
from that. So I think it's really like case by case and context and stuff. Everybody loves to see someone slip on a banana peel in the right context.
Mhm.
Like for you, America's Funniest Home Videos, which, if you're young and listening to this, before YouTube, you used to take a video cassette and send it into a television studio
Yep.
who would then watch your videos. They would put them into a compilation, which Bob Saget
Rest in peace.
would do funny voices over,
What a concept, my god.
right?
Yeah, I
And he would
know.
do the dumbest voices. It's like, oh, hey, look at this ball. Oh no. Hopefully it doesn't hit me in the face. Oh.
It was such a cozy watch, like, the set. Just ca
And
Yeah, it was great.
everybody watched it every week. Huge,
Yeah,
huge show. Now you
yeah,
just have YouTube, and if something funny
yeah.
happens, you just put it up there. But anyway, so yes, I think that there is a way of watching this that it's just horror. You're watching someone's life kind of spiral out of control in the pursuit of making one short film over 7 years.
Mhm.
Or you can watch this and just laugh. You can laugh at them, you can laugh with them. But I think the movie does a little bit of both. And I think what makes it truly special is that, the secret third option is you watch it and you relate to them, you feel for them, you come to care for them as people, and you see their weaknesses, their faults, but you also see like, oh, this is what makes this person really special.
Yeah,
And
right. The
yeah,
relatable human experience of it.
yes, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you about Mark.
Mhm.
How do you feel about Mark?
What I really enjoyed about Mark is he's so unapologetically himself. And so
Mm-hmm.
he's never sugarcoating anything. Like, even when we're seeing his bills piled up, he's very honest throughout the entire movie of, like, what the end goal is here and how he doesn't wanna end up as a factory worker. He doesn't wanna end up doing, like,
Mm-hmm.
some, like, boring job, run of the mill. Uh, he also doesn't wanna lose his kids. So we see that, like, he's not a bad dad. Are his priorities, aligned? Probably not, but he loves his kids, and, people might have a problem with that of bringing his kids to the editing bay, bringing his kids on set. I don't know. I mean, is that so awful? The kids are involved. I feel like he's teaching them a little bit of filmmaking. It made me think of you and your kids. Like, we involved Job in our live show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if there's a line there. Of course there is. But I
You know what I
liked
think it
Mark.
is for people? I think
What?
it's if Mark becomes a highly successful director, you look at that and you say, wow, look,
Yeah. Well,
oh, his kids grew up around the
absolutely.
industry and blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. I think that if everything crashes and burns, you look at it as a failure.
Yeah.
So many stories hinge on whether or not we find them to be successful.
So true. So well said. I I was just so fascinated with him not only like his process and how he treats the people in his life, but like I just needed to know more about Joan.
Yes, I
Ha-
agree. I
ha-
agree.
Joan is his girlfriend. She, I believe, is older, much
She
older.
seems a little older,
She
but
seems
as we have talked about many times, people just used to look older.
that's true too. That's true
Joan
because
could
we
have
don't.
been 22.
I know we don't find, and there's nothing wrong with dating someone older or younger as long as it's like age appropriate and legal. But it takes a while for us to figure out how old he is because I'm like, I couldn't tell how old Mark was. I'm like, are you still in college? Are you
hmm
like out of high school? Then we find out he's 30, and then like we get the kid bomb of like he has 3 kids. And
hmm
that like threw me. I was like, wow. Okay, we are layering here. We are building a person, not just someone who's trying to make a movie, finish his short because he ultimately wants to make Northwestern.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's like the big goal here.
hmm I like Mark, but you can see how this would be like an exhausting person to be around,
Mhm.
especially if you're not into what he's doing. Mike never has a problem. You know what I mean? Like Mike is along for the ride, but his dad is pretty much like, no, I'm not really involved anymore. His mom is very begrudgingly involved. He's got
She's
2
like,
brothers.
oh my,
They're not around helping.
okay. All right.
Yeah,
I would like to just pause here and talk about the family dynamic because
sure.
the mom to me is like quintessential mom of like, I don't really think he's going to make anything of himself, but I'm still going to support and help if I can.
hmm
You have these 2 brothers. We have these talking head interviews. One of them literally says they thought their brother, Mark, would end up as like a serial killer or a murderer.
hmm Yeah, I think it's the horror thing.
Well, right, because he's into making horror
Yeah,
movies.
yeah, because
Yes,
they're
but
like, I don't really see what the value is of this.
right, but then to say like, "Yeah, I thought he would end up as, like, a serial killer." That's
hmm
insane to say. The dad, and correct me if I'm wrong since you've seen this a bunch of times, but, like, the dad and the mom are divorced, but they seem to be coexisting?
Oh, I don't know.
I thought it was like they split, but then I saw them living in the same house, so maybe I misunderstood. And then we have to bring in Uncle Bill,
Oh, of course, absolutely.
who is the dad's brother.
Dad's brother. Yep.
Yeah. Who the whole time Mark is just being like, you can be executive producer. We give us the money to make this movie. But it's not, do you find that Mark and Uncle Bill's relationship is Mark is showing up just to get the money? Or do you think he legitimately shows up? Yes, the side would be like, I'm going to get money, but I also do care for you and I do want to help you and be there for you.
I think it's all about the money.
You do think it's all about the money, even
Only
getting the
because
sponge
we
bath?
don't see Mark like spending time with anyone if it doesn't have to do with the movie.
Yeah, but is that Chris's angle? We're
It's
just gonna
it's
shoot that day because you're going to talk about the movie, you know?
and that's very very possible. Um but yeah, I think it's all for the money. I don't necessarily blame Mark for hanging out with Uncle Bill to get the money. This might sound like really horrible, but like Uncle Bill is really really old and he has a lot of money.
And he's sick, it
So
seems.
like what else is he going to do with that money kind of a thing? And I'm sure
Yeah.
that's what Mark is kind of thinking
Yeah.
like Uncle Bill, give me 20, 40 grand. What do you care? Like
Right.
he's living in a place. If he's got that amount of money, I'm sure that place is paid off. It doesn't seem like Uncle Bill is driving sports cars and traveling the world. Like, at one point, it's one of my favorite lines, and I'm probably going to butcher the exact delivery and words, but Mark walks up to Uncle Bill and he's like, "What are you doing? Sitting there contemplating what you've done with your life?" And Bill's just like, "Yeah."
Yeah. Oh, Bill was
And
great.
Mark just has such a great way of talking.
Mhm. Hey,
You know,
man.
yeah. It's this mixture of like, "Oh man," and very flowery sentences
Yes.
like that. Like he doesn't just walk up to Bill and say, "What are you sitting there thinking?" you know.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like Leo from that 70s show. And then you just think of like this is Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Wow. I didn't think about it. Or like when he says to Mike at one point something like, "This is going to be cinematic travesty, man. Do you understand that?" And Mike goes, "No." And he goes, "Well, you will."
What did you think about Mike?
Well, let's finish talking about Uncle
Okay,
Leo.
sorry.
I
I'm
mean,
getting
oops,
excited.
Uncle Leo. Let's finish talking about Uncle Bill. Yeah.
Okay.
Uncle Bill is such a great kind of like road bump, or like not even a road. Like Uncle Bill is like a monolith in the highway of Mark's life, where Mark is like, let's go. We got to do this. Oh, and he's able to talk. One of his brothers says the only real thing he has going for him is his mouth.
Yeah.
And here's this guy who Mark can stand there and talk to and say all this stuff to. And Bill's just like, what? Like when they're talking and he's like, I'm thinking about cinema. And he's like, cinnamon?
I know.
And it's such a funny dynamic because Bill is just a normal person.
Yeah.
It's just that he has this person around him who is not, normal. I'm living my normal life. And so like in contrast, Bill becomes such a interesting roadblock for Mark to have to navigate. So how do you navigate that when you're trying to direct someone 30 times? How did you feel about that part?
I mean, I just kept laughing because Bill is like, I don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But yet he is still doing it.
Right.
And Bill just like, I feel like when we first met Bill, he was more lively. And as the time went on over the course of the year or whatever,
Yeah.
You could tell. I was like, I think Bill is sick
Yeah. I believe
because
it's 2 years.
is it 2 years? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, from when we first meet Bill and to the end, and then we find out Bill passed away, but which that got me. I was teary-eyed about that.
Sure.
But yeah, that whole sequence of it's all right, it's okay. There's something to live for, Jesus told me. So. And then because we see like Mark trying to get Bill ADR, right? Like, I need you to say this. You're not saying it right. And Bill's just like begrudgingly, like, does not want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, I mean, at this point, we don't know where this fits in the film. And so when we finally go to the premiere of Coven and we see that shot, it's just like the mouth is moving.
And then when you watch Coven,
Yes.
I watched Coven in preparation for this. It's something I've been meaning to do for a while, and I just never got around to doing it. And then like you see that's how the movie opens, and you're like, why was this so important? You could have had him say anything.
Well, right. But it also just goes back to like Mark is such a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm. He has a vision.
He has a vision, and as much as he needs to get this done, it hasn't gotten done because of like just obsessing over. I mean, not to leave Uncle Bill, but to stay on the obsessive.
Not to leave him in the tub.
Yeah. Oh wow. But just to like insert Mark's another example of him being obsessed is like putting that actor's head through the cabinet.
Oh my God.
Like the scene that they were shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my God. And the actor's like, yep. But also, I know I'm all over the place. I apologize. It's just I'm excited. These actors that are in Coven keep coming for reshoots.
Yeah.
This cast of characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
wild.
great. It's great. I love theater guy. I don't know his name, but you know
great.
who I'm talking
Theater
about.
guy was.
Yes.
Yeah.
But on that note of the door, I had this thought because Mark has vision, right? Mark also has film knowledge, film history knowledge. He has technical knowledge. He has vision. The head didn't go through the door because the guy who scored the door didn't do it right.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't Mark who didn't do it right.
Right.
Mark is directing people. He's directing Uncle Bill. He's directing the people in the woods to look menacing. And I really wondered, I was like, is Mark like a good director? He just has all of these limitations because of the environment that he's in and because he's working with amateurs. Like, if Mark was working with professionals and professional sound people and prop masters, would this work? Like, would he be able to do this?
Yeah, wow, that's an interesting question.
Because
Or,
his power is in getting people to do things, and that's what a director is doing. You're assembling a team of experts to do their jobs, and you are encouraging them and guiding them to do their jobs. And unfortunately for Mark, no one does this for a job.
yeah, so he's able to direct those who are not as well versed.
Yeah, and don't want to really be doing it.
Right. So if he was put with people who were versed, but would those people want to work with him? I don't
Right.
know.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
So back to Theater Guy. When they're talking about how to pronounce coven, the blocking of that scene is so incredible because you have Theater Guy. He's a little bit more in the forefront, and he's like, "It's coven. The word is coven." And then Mark is like a little bit behind him, off to the left. He's like, "No, man, that doesn't work. Coven rhymes with oven. That's no good. It's coven. I can't have that."
Right.
And Theater Guy's just like, "Oh,
I know. I can't believe I'm a part of this.
right, like these amateurs."
I know.
Like, that's the air that this guy gives off. Amateurs.
When they're doing still shots and Theater Guy is wearing his scarf
Mm-hmm.
and he has to take the scarf off.
Mm-hmm.
He's just very upset about it.
Mm-hmm. Does he have a cane? Am I imagining a cane?
I thought so, but I thought that maybe that was for
Okay, yes, that's
this photo
true.
shoot.
That's true. That's true.
A prop cane.
You never know, though. He could have come with his own cane.
Absolutely.
Yep. I want to talk about Mike Schank.
It's hard to pick a favorite in this, but Mike truly, truly is a gem,
Yeah.
an unexpected gem. Like when this first started, okay, and we see
Mm-hmm.
Mark and Mike interacting, I'm like, this is giving like Jay and Silent Bob. Did you
Yep.
get that?
Oh,
Okay. Do people
absolutely.
say that? I know this isn't like a novel idea.
Ebert in his review said something like, Mike
Yeah.
is like a, different version of Silent
Yeah.
Bob. Yeah.
Yeah. Mike's delivery on everything gets me. His
Yep.
giggles.
Yep.
And I love that we don't leave Mike when he's speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are fixated. And there's that
Mm-hmm.
one long story where he's talking about going into the hospital because he took drugs and
Yep.
he's just going and going. And I think that's one of like the longest like shots I've seen in like a really long time.
Yep.
It's fantastic. It's so fantastic.
He's so great in this movie. I think that he's the heart of the movie.
Yeah.
He's somewhat the comedic relief, even though Mark is really funny. Everyone is really funny. Like when the dad, peeks into the kitchen during the Super Bowl and he says like, "Hey, watch that conversation,"
Mhm.
or something like
Mhm.
that, and then just disappears again. He's obviously not intending to be funny in doing that. He
Right.
doesn't want Mark swearing in the house. But it's so, so, so funny. So I wouldn't relegate Mike to, comedic relief or the goofy sidekick because he's like so much more than that. He's such a good friend to Mark.
Yeah.
And like he's trying to do everything that Mark is asking him to do. When Mark says, "Hey, Mike, make sure everyone has brown gloves." And then from 5 feet away, Mike goes, "Does everybody have brown gloves?" And Mark's like, "No, no. Ah." That's another thing that I kind of appreciate about this is like Mark is always so wired and wound up and like angry. He's angry that he's working at this cemetery and that his boss would suggest that he'll be there for a while. And he's angry that he owes money and he's depressed and, has a hard time getting out of bed. And like, but we don't have him screaming at actors or screaming at Mike or, his parents are yelling at him. There's not like a whole lot of drama from person to person. It's just like Mark is this orbit of like drama and agitation, and everyone has just kind of like they just exist with it.
Yeah, because they know how to kind of talk to him and live with him. And you have to have, I think, that calmer counterpart to you
Mm-hmm.
as your best friend. Like if you're a hyperactive person, if your best friend's also very hyperactive, it's like explosion's going to happen. There has to be a balance.
I loved in the Letterman interview, he asks Mike how they met. And Mike he's like, I used to like to party a lot. And he's like, Mark was the only one who would drink vodka with me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was so nice, but also funny.
Yeah. Also, like, we learn a little bit more about Mike. He doesn't party anymore, as he says in the doc, but he gambles.
Yes.
And he spends a lot of money on lotto, and he does win a couple of times, but he's so secretive to it. And he's like, I'm just not going to tell anybody because I don't want anyone to spend my money.
Two favorite parts of this movie is when Mike comes for Thanksgiving and he's smiling, which Mike is smiling a lot,
A lot.
And Mark's like, Happy Thanksgiving, man. What do you got to say for yourself? And Mike's like, Nothing. And, the shot continues and Mark's like, You really seem pleased with yourself. What do you know that we don't know, And we don't know what's happening. And then it just is a hard cut to Mike in the basement whispering, I won $50 on a scratch off, but I don't want them to know because they'll want me to give them some of it. And he's just so happy. And it's like he's got this like secret, and it's so, so, so great. And then the other part, and it almost makes me tear up, but I also am just laughing so much through it, is when Mike records the scream.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. It's right, because we do see also throughout this thread of like Mike plays music.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like playing a guitar, and we cut to him a lot. And then when we have this like montage of like the actors recording their screams, and then Mike goes, and you're like, oh, okay.
He comes more alive.
Yes.
From watching him, you would think Mike's scream would be like, yeah. No, he gives it, and like his eyes are bulging and his face is red, and you're almost like, Mike, you have to breathe, man.
Yeah.
Like, and even Mark is like, wow, that was awesome. I think he says wicked, right?
Yeah. And Mike is so pleased with himself too.
He should be. It's amazing.
He composes himself and he just goes on.
It's amazing. Like, and that's one of the things that I love about doing creative things on a real small scale with people is when you can see them excel or do well.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my God, like there's something there. There's something like in you and you can do this. And yeah, it's awesome. So Mike plays the guitar throughout the movie and he ends up doing the score for the movie, which is great. I love the score for this.
I know, it's pretty cool. I love it.
He does have an album available on YouTube called Songs I Know.
Oh, okay.
So I would recommend everybody check that out. So in addition to being on Letterman, they had done a few movies after this, acting. Some of the stuff is like really, really hard to find.
Did you I sent you one.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that one? It was about Britney Spears impersonator.
No, that one is hard to find.
But you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's called
Britney Baby One More Time.
Britney Baby One More Time. Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
And Mark and Mike play people who are trying to get an interview with Britney Spears. And then they end up just pursuing a Britney Spears impersonator.
I want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they continue doing like little bits, you know, bigger bits, smaller bits. Mark has a part in Jet Li's The One, which is pretty funny. Small part, but memorable part. They had a little part on Family Guy. So if you just go to YouTube and search Family Guy, Mark Borchardt or Mike Schank, that will probably come up. It's real quick. Very sadly, unfortunately, Mike did die in October of 2022. And I remember hearing about this when it happened, and I was just like, oh, so sad and upsetting, you know, even though you don't know him. There was a response from people. Even Edgar Wright, the director of Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim, you know, he wrote a real heartfelt tweet about
oh my gosh,
being huge fans of Mike. And I guess on the DVD extras, there was a scene where you could see Mike's home phone number. And so they called it and like talked to him.
Whoa.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Wow.
But yeah, I love Mike. I think this movie doesn't work without him, and he propels this to like just such lovely heights.
Yeah.
So this movie does premiere at Sundance, and Sundance played Coven immediately after the premiere. And so Ebert in his review is like, no one left. Everyone.
Well, yeah, you get to see the finished product.
Yes. He was like, no one in their right mind was going to leave.
Yeah.
If you had an opportunity to see that movie. And he praises some parts of
Coven?
Yeah. I don't think it's like the greatest thing in the world, but it's also not a disaster.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it really made me curious if Mark was given the money and the time and the talent that other directors are, you know, what would he do with it?
It's a good question. What is Mark doing now?
So he directs music videos. He's very active on Twitter. He's very much into being inspirational and lots of positive, uplifting messages, encouraging people to, you know, get working on their projects and get things done. And
wow.
Yeah.
A man for the people. A man for the people.
Yeah, he's a good follow. If you don't follow him on Twitter already.
Yeah, I'll follow him. Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
So they're putting up flyers for this premiere. They're cutting this film and they lose 2 frames.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't know the exact number of frames that they have for the entire 36-minute film, but you know, they're basically like looking for a needle in a haystack kind of thing. And it's so stressful.
I know.
It's so stressful and horrible, and they've put all this time and work into it, and now people are coming, and holy moly. But then we get to the day and people are like lining up. It's great.
Amazing, right?
Yeah. And he's like signing autographs. People are asking him about other things and other movies. Yeah. And
he's wearing a blazer.
Yep. Yeah. Uncle Bill is there.
I know. He gets like a car to drop him off. I don't know who was driving him, but
right.
Like a full theater, it seemed.
Yeah. I mean, at least people at least, you know.
People.
Yeah.
And as a creator, and as we know and we joke all the time, to have someone come to your live thing, you know, we say, well, at least there'll be 2 people at our live show.
Right. And that's
us.
Right. And yeah, it's great. Like, and it's fun to see after the premiere, Mark gets up and he's still Mark, but I think when he's in front of that many people, he seems shy, like for the first time.
Yes.
Over this time that we've spent with him, he kind of seems like at a loss for words. And you would think that, you know, Mark would go up there with a speech and, you know, espouse all these ideas and philosophies that he has. And no, he just seems kind of
Yeah.
a little more reserved and like not fully knowing what to say. And it's nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we see unfortunately Uncle Bill passes away. He's an older guy, so it's understandable. And he leaves Mark $40,000.
Yes, to do Northwestern.
Yeah.
It didn't get made, right?
It did not get made. Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Are there ever talks that he'll do it? Or is he past it?
I've seen a lot of people asking him questions like, "Oh, are you going to do it? Or are you going to?" I can't remember what he says, to be honest with you.
We need to do like a film something where we have Miami Connection and this movie.
A double feature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, yeah.
Hey, contact your local repertory theater. Ask them if they'd be willing to have a Movie Friends film week. Michelle and I will come out. We'll introduce each movie. We'll get some interviews going with cast and crew afterwards for Q&As. Maybe we'll call it like Movie Friends, and it will be all about people who are passionate about making movies, like Miami Connection and like American Movie.
Wow, Movie Friends. How riveting.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with that name?
It's a great name.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday, Michelle sent me the list of titles, initial titles.
Yeah.
For the show, and they were all very Michelle-centric.
It's ridiculous.
So the first one that I loved the most was Mission Impossible.
Right. I just remember reading that and not even paying attention. None of these are good. So I'm not signing on to anything.
There's nothing wrong with throwing out ideas.
That's
You got to start somewhere.
That's true.
You got to start somewhere.
True.
But yes, like looking at those original ideas to where we are now and how much of the thrust of the show has been built around the identity of it. I was like, oh my God, Mission Impossible. Like, what even is that show?
It's not me watching movies, I tell you that much.
Meet the Movies was another one.
Meet the Movies. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Michelle's Firsts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No.
So this movie was made for, I don't know how much. I know that American Job, the budget was $14,000.
Oh, okay.
And that this was more, but that's all that I know.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. This goes on to make $1.2 million at the box office. So definitely makes back its budget.
Wow.
This has a score of 94 on Rotten Tomatoes, 4.2 on Letterboxd, 84 on Metacritic. There is not a Criterion release for this yet. This is not in the National Film Registry. And again, I say yet because there's no way that this should not be preserved for future generations.
Also, like our show kind of does things like that. So,
what do you mean?
Well, sometimes when we talk about something, then it happens. Josie and the Pussycats.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
We have the effect. It's the Movie Friends effect, Seth.
If American Movie is announced for Criterion or the National Registry, it happened here first, folks.
That's right.
Ebert gave this 4 stars. The full 4.
Wow.
Yep. And as far as the production schedule, this took years.
Yeah.
Many years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go to a segment of the show where we talk about our happies and our crappies. It's time for happies and crappies. Happies and crappies. Do you want to go first? Do you want to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. So my happy is Mike's scream. And my crappy is either Mark not paying child support or leaving Uncle Bill in the bathtub.
That was my crappy because I was like really concerned about that.
Yes.
Like
scary.
my happy was Uncle Bill in the bathtub and talking about peppermint schnapps and talking about the toenail, like the length of the toenail. I thought I wrote down like verbatim what that was. But then on the flip side, I was like, well, my crappy is like he just leaves him in the bathtub when Joan comes over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Joan has the wherewithal to be like, you can't leave an old man
Right.
in a tub that's cold.
Oh my God. Yeah, we talk about the temperature of the water. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, let's have this talk and walk and get to the bathroom.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So we asked some friends on Twitter what they thought. Anders Holmes at Fabricius91 said, great documentary film about filmmaking, particularly worth watching if you're an indie or upcoming filmmaker. A nice film filled with wonderful, oddball characters. This had a very memorable screening at my film school. We quoted a lot of the lines from the film to each other. Digital Physics Film and Game
Whoa.
at DIG Physics says, one of our favorite films, inspirational, heart emoji. Side note, we have Mike's guitar music on CDR that we bought from him in 2000 via a check sent to Wisconsin.
Oh my gosh.
We also gave Mark a DVD-R of Digital Physics after a screening at Moving Image, New York. He's a horror guy, but also a movie buff.
Wow. Well, yeah.
1999, the podcast, at 1999, the podcast, says, easily one of the best documentaries of all time. I had to watch it twice in a row in 1999 to convince myself it was real. A moving, hilarious, deeply human love letter to the need for people to create new things and put them into the world. Rest in peace, Mike Schank. What a talent. Rufus4 at Celebrate366 says, just saw this for the first time last month. At times it feels like a Christopher Guest mockumentary, and at times it feels like a small town Grey Gardens. Very entertaining. And Grey Gardens is kind of another one of those movies that falls into the category of like, are we laughing at these people?
I've never seen Grey Gardens.
It's intense.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an intense look at like.
Oh, it's a documentary?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Movies for Days. Good friend Newman. At Movies Days, and Days is with a Z, says, I saw this for the first time this year. Within about 15 minutes, I thought, whoa, this guy is a monster. I mean, he's an absolutely horrible person. Great flick, though. It's all right. It's okay. There's something to live for. Jesus told me so.
Wow, an awful person.
I think that you can see this. Like I said, there's like 3-ish ways to see this, where you see the creative person as not being great to his friends and family and being self-obsessed and self-absorbed in his project.
Okay.
Newman would never leave Uncle Bill in the tub.
Never. Was Newman the one with the buddy that we didn't know if he existed?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so maybe he would leave his buddy in the tub. Because, as far as I'm concerned, we don't even know that buddy is real.
Zach
is in the tub. Newman, I'm shouting you out, buddy.
Hashtag Zach is in the tub.
That's right.
KMS78 at KMSTX78 said, I've seen this 20 plus times since 99 and always get something new out of it. Some dismissed it as a director mocking his subject, but they weren't watching closely. Hilarious, touching, and a must for movie lovers. My second favorite doc of all time, and a Thanksgiving classic in my home. And I agree with this, and I would like to suggest to everyone, make this your Thanksgiving movie. That was me talking, not Kay.
I kind of love that. Maybe what I should do, like back in the day, I mean, I was never one of these people, but it was a thing to like go to the bars on Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe instead this year, we'll just watch this.
Invite everyone that you know over.
Well, not everyone, because not everyone's going to appreciate this.
I don't know.
No, I'll invite like Andrew.
Okay.
Andrew would appreciate this.
Invite people over, get some peppermint schnapps.
Or I could just do this at Thanksgiving.
There you go.
This is a perfect movie for Thanksgiving.
There you go. Kay continues. They say, if I weren't on vacation, I'd start tweeting a barrage of great quotes from the film. But since time is short, I'll just say, $2 plus a potato is $2. And then lastly, they had posted 2 pictures. One is of a signed copy of the American movie DVD, and the other one is an American movie t-shirt. And they say, and yes, that's my DVD copy autographed by Mark Borchardt and Mike Schank. I actually own a second DVD copy and the recent Blu-ray as well. And yes, that's my shirt given to me by my wife a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
A signed copy from both Mike and Mark. That's a collector's item if I've ever heard of one.
It's pretty great. It's pretty great.
So those are some people that we do know. Now we go to a segment of the show where we hear from people that we don't know. It's called Half Star, 3 Star, 5 Star. So the half star review, I normally read in an accent, and I'm going to try my best to do this as Mark. Okay? All right. Half star review says, "Oh my God, I've lived in the Midwest and I've met narcissists from Wisconsin. I don't need to see one manipulate his friends and family for 2 hours. Some people should give up on their dreams." Half star.
That was me being Mike.
Narcissist from Wisconsin. Is that a thing?
Sounds like a band. Doesn't that sound like a band?
Class of people? 3-star review says, "Really wanted to love this because I always appreciate people pursuing their love of cinema. But this is something I just respect rather than enjoy," which I think is...
Ooh, that's good. Yeah, okay.
I don't feel that way, but...
Yeah.
Absolutely essential watch for anyone interested in the turmoil and challenges of filmmaking, but nothing special by any means. And that one I don't agree with. But in the 5-star review that I pulled, it's just a quote from the movie. But you know what? This is a movie that speaks for itself. So this review says, "There's no excuses, Paul. No one has ever paid admission to see an excuse. No one has ever faced a black screen that says, well, if we had these set of circumstances, we would have shot this scene. So please forgive us and use your imagination. I've been to the movies hundreds of times. That's never occurred."
5 stars.
5 stars.
That's great. That's great.
So we rate a film as a movie, a schmovie, or a film. We also rate it 1 through 5 stars and give our final thoughts. So, Michelle, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay.
Okay. So I wrote down that you rated this 5 stars.
Wow.
And a film.
Yes. Good. Very good. I have this rated on Letterboxd as 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
And after watching it several times this week, I'm like, you know what? It just doesn't get better than this. The opportunity to film these people in all of their problems and victories, it just doesn't get better than this. So, yeah, I'm bumping up to 5 stars. I think that this is a film. I think great job, shooting 2 years of stuff and editing it down. Great job by the editors here. Side note, if you haven't seen the trailer, watch the trailer. It's one of the best trailers of all time because it just distills down lots of great little scenes and moments from it. And you're like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
And I recommend this. Definitely. I recommend it. And I think that you should recommend it to your friends. Tell everybody to watch this movie. And depending on what they say, you'll get a good barometer for what they enjoy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not to be like, if you don't like American movie, you don't like movies. That's not what I mean. Just, I feel like this is a good barometer. All right. So for you, I wrote down that you were going to rate this 4.5 stars.
Okay. And what about...
And I think that you're going to say that this is a mixture between a schmovie and a film.
Seth, this is the dill pickle. We just guessed each other's ratings to a T.
Wow.
Man, I wish we had our pickle scale.
Yeah, the pickle scale is coming, folks, by the way. As if we needed to add another thing to this show. But that's a little tease. That's a little pickle tease.
First off, the fact that you knew I was going to say nugget at the beginning of the show, and that the fact that you not only guessed the rating, but knew this was a schmovie film on my part, I feel so seen.
Wow.
Wow, Seth.
I was like...
I think we're the twin emoji sometimes.
Yes.
Like the dancing.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, yes. I am recommending this, but probably only to a certain group of friends, like I usually say.
Mm-hmm.
But I am definitely recommending it. In fact, I texted my friend, whose husband, who's also my friend. He's from Wisconsin. He's into films, and I said, "Has he seen American movie?" And he has, and he loved it. So,
Nice.
I thought of him the whole time. I'm like, Ryan's from Wisconsin, so I wonder if he's seen this, and he grew up there. Uh, yeah, this was great, Seth. I'm so glad you chose this and you were selfish.
Yes.
This is like another one of these where I'm going to be talking about it and telling people to watch it.
Yeah, it gets into you,
Yeah, this was so enjoyable.
Yeah.
So enjoyable.
Hey, if you found this so enjoyable, we'd love it if you give us a rating and a review wherever you're listening. Do you listen on Spotify? Are you listening on Overcast? By the way,
Hey,
we see you. We hear you. Overcast is now our second highest listened through app. You Overcast users are beating out Spotify. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's really, really crazy.
Hey, Overcast listeners. Thanks.
And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, drop a review. Why not? We're still in pursuit of beating Jamie Kennedy. You can also send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of American Movie. Let us know what you're thinking about Docu-June. What do you think's coming up in July? Who knows? Do we even know? Oh my God. You can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. $5 a month gets you access to all of our additional episodes. It gives you access to voting on upcoming episodes each month. And once a quarter, the patrons get to pick a theme, which, guess what, folks? Documentaries, this was it.
This is their choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, we've got a live show coming up. September 21st, Long Island, New York. We're going to be talking about Space Jam. But you know what? It's so much more than that. If you hate that movie, you're like, Space Jam sucks, come to this.
Yeah, this is for you.
If you love that movie and you say Space Jam rules, come to this.
We're going to have special guests.
Special guests.
We're going to be giving stuff away.
Maybe some confetti guns again.
Maybe.
Stuff will be thrown.
That's right.
I can confirm that, okay?
Stuff will be thrown, so you want to be in the audience.
Anyway, September 21st, and you can go to eventbrite.com/moviefriendspodcast to let us know that you're coming. And I totally forgot that was set up, and I went to check it, and people have registered to come. They're coming. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
So if you're like, gee, I don't want to sign up. I don't want to be the only one there. And Michelle and Seth are just throwing stuff straight at me, for an hour and a half.
I mean, that's like the VIP experience. So why wouldn't they want that? But I get it. I get it. Bring a friend. Tell your friends. This is a free event. It's free, Seth.
Free event?
This is a free event.
Free event. And as we keep saying, this might be the last one.
No, we haven't been saying that.
Oh, well, I was doing a thing, but...
Oh, yeah, this is totally going to be our last one.
It's going to be the last time that we ever are seen alive again.
Okay, we went dark.
So, you be there or be square.
All right.
All right, very good. So next week, Michelle, This is your pick.
This is my pick. We are going to be discussing Perfect Bid, the contestant who knew too much from 2017.
Very cool. Very cool.
I keep saying the years that this is going to throw me off. Like I said, 2024 on Sasquatch Sunset. It was 2017. Anyway, it's 72 minutes long.
Whoa, a shorty.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's streaming on a lot of platforms. Tubi, Peacock, Prime.
Nice.
Pick your poison.
I'm excited because this is one that I've heard about and I have not seen. And I've meant to. Like every time I see it come up, I'm like, oh, I really want to know this story.
Yeah. So this is about a contestant who like gamed the rules of The Price is Right through.
Which I don't understand how you can do that.
Analysis.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to watch. So I really hope you enjoy it.
I have so many questions just because of the nature of The Price is Right and how you're picked. And so I'm I'm
You're
excited.
looking forward?
Yeah, very excited.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Seth. Good choice.
Yeah.
I'm really like excited. This
Yeah.
to me like feels I'm like excited again.
Yeah. Docu-June so far, pretty good.
We only did 2, so
Well,
it's not like get ahead
2
of
out of 4.
ourselves. That's true.
50% good.
Yeah.
Anyway, till next week when we're talking about the perfect bid. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Vicora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks.